Welcome to the Women and Wealth podcast with Esther Szabo. Esther is a respected leader in the field of personal financial advice with over 25 years of experience. After going through her own significant and challenging life-changing events, she overcame fear and self-doubt to launch her own successful advisory firm. Now Esther is ready to share her practical and personal experiences to help other women clear their hurdles and brave life's transitions. In this way, she inspires women to lead fulfilling and confident lives.
Hello and welcome to Women and Wealth with Esther Szabo from Gates Pass Advisors. Today we're talking about flipping coins and magic 8 balls. Or maybe not.
And don't forget crystal balls.
And crystal balls, yes, absolutely. Esther, you told me today we're going to be talking about decision making and some other things kind of wrapped around decision making. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's such a challenging time right now. And there may be decisions that have to be made. And how do we do that with personal finance during such challenging times? So that is what we're talking about.
And I'm going to assume that you're going to shoot down my idea of investing in a magic 8 ball and letting it make my decisions for me.
Yeah. When I was a broker at Schwab, that was a gift that I got from my staff, and I used to keep it on my desk. And it was fun with customers who came in and was like, okay, well, what does the magic 8 ball say?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that was a conversation starter.
Yeah,
Either that or conversation ender, right?
Right. No, I still have it in my closet at home, but haven't brought it out again lately.
Nice. All right.
It is fun, and it's sometimes one wishes that if there was just something like that worked. Gosh, it would be so much easier.
Oh yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
But here, when people ask what we do, I mean, we're known for personal financial planning, for integrating portfolios with plans, and for providing ongoing advice and support given life's transitions. Because our financial planning, we typically assume that people will last and live until one is age 100. So that includes lots of personal life transitions.
Yeah.
And also in terms of transitions that go on in the world. I mean, right now it's early. Well, no, it's towards the end of March. March has gone so fast with everything that's gone on. And we're in a big transition around this very serious coronavirus pandemic. We are all being asked to shelter in place. There's a tremendous impact on the economy, tremendous impact on the stock market, and for everybody, regardless of how much or little one has invested in equities, it has an impact on portfolios. And if I were to really just bottom line what it is that we do, it would be to help people make good personal financial decisions.
I would agree 100%. And one of the things that you and I've talked about many, many times is trying to remove the emotion from making those decisions. And I think that if I was to maybe dissect that a little bit more, helping people make good personal financial decisions, you really do it by helping them to see the full picture instead of being so laser focused on either a negative thing or a positive opportunity that may not be the opportunity they should be taking based on their own personal needs, their risk needs, so on and so forth. We've talked a lot about that before. But I think that's one thing that you do so well, just in having those deep conversations, to be able to say, okay, this is what you wanted me to help you with. Let me show you a broader picture here so we don't get so laser focused on the negative.
Yeah, and it's really allowing time to listen. And we're having a lot of conversations with clients right now. And really the first question is, how are you doing with all of this?
Yeah.
And just hearing where clients are. Now, many are basically taking it in stride. I mean, they're saying, yeah, this isn't pleasant. This isn't fun at all. I am scared. I am nervous. But the phones aren't ringing off the hook to, sell, or panic at all. But it's important to be present for the discussion first. We are, as a certified financial transitionist, it is about integrating the technical knowledge. So we have technical knowledge. I am a certified financial planner. I have 25 plus years of portfolio management. Eric Shea, who has joined me on previous podcasts and is our associate advisor here, is a chartered financial analyst with a deep dive knowledge of investments and the technical aspects there. But the transitionist part, what we strongly feel is the key piece, the key driver to success is the importance of understanding the personal side of each client, not just coming with the technical. Both are important. So it's not to say the technical isn't, but the personal is. And when I just talked a moment ago about listening and checking in with clients, how they're doing, each client, for example, has their own preferences for communication. Some want more information and data. Some say, no, please don't. I need less information. I just want to be able to be heard. I think most of us want to be heard. We have to be so careful in our profession not to just put up slide after slide of data and charts and all of that. Some clients just say, move quickly to the bottom line. I don't need all the detail. Just help me know where I'm at. And it makes sense because major life stressors really deplete our resources. And I'm speaking of this from the standpoint of personal transitions as well as what's going on right now for all of us having to adjust to a very changed situation than we were a month ago. And our resources can get depleted. So when I'm in advance of connecting with clients right now, I'm saying, gosh, what is most helpful? I have so much always to share with people. There's so much information, and I really enjoy all of it. And I want to know where the client is and connecting them back to their own plan and being present to hear them and realizing that most people have just so much bandwidth. So that's one of the main things, is to be aware of their communication preference and what it is that's most important. We also our focus is to co-create the financial plan around which the portfolio is integrated. And when I say co-create, one may want to go back and listen to episode 38 around the different ways financial planning is talked about in our industry and how there's different ways to approach a plan. We don't just say, okay, let's plug in some numbers and shoot out a bunch of pictures. It's like, no, we really co-create and engage with our client. What is the right structure around which to build decisions and how to simplify and organize all the different parts of one's personal finance. We also we're not neuroscientists, but we have a neurological understanding of how the brain works, or an understanding of the neurology of the brain. There is, when we're talking about decisions, cognition can be really challenged. Our brain has this part called the amygdala. It's really triggered by stress, and it's really there for a good reason. If there's a tiger about to jump on you, you want to get the heck out of there.
That's a good idea.
It's not it's a good idea. It's not a negative thing, but it can really trigger this fight or flight response. Mm-hmm. And I remember in 2008, this time is reminiscent of that, not so much because of the reasons we're going through the decline, but because of the depth and breadth of the decline. Mm-hmm. And I remember then clients were angry, not with me or with us, but basically just like, shoot, I did everything right. I did my planning. I did my asset allocation. And it doesn't look like it made any difference at all. And you've probably heard it too, that anger is a secondary emotion. And often that emotion is fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's fear of loss and fear of missing out. That I either, if it's a down market, I have fear that it may not come back. We just had a conversation this morning with a client and reviewing her portfolio. And her comment was, and this is true for many people right now in what we hope or not, we can't be sure, but is perhaps the depth of this situation, of the current market decline. Mm-hmm. Wow, it took me several years to get my portfolio to this level, and now it's back to where it was. Like, how will it come back? When will it come back? And because we don't know the answers to when and how soon, that can really trigger fear.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that you said was the fear of loss. And I think that what I've seen, and I mean, I've lived through a lot of these different things as you have, and 2008, 2009, I think one of the biggest issues for people that really are suffering and struggling now is they succumb to their fear of loss. When the markets went down, it took most people by surprise how quickly it did. And fearing losing more, there are people that pulled out of the markets at the lowest point or close to the lowest point, thinking that it's going to completely tank and there's not going to be anything left, which that's never happened. And I can't imagine it ever happening, because the markets go down, the markets come back up, the markets go down, the markets go up. It's just how it works. But when they did, maybe it was that fight or flight, and they just they flew out of there, right? They I'm going to take all my money and run. Then they didn't experience coming back up, right? And that's a huge loss for them, lost opportunity. And I don't know how to, besides open communication like you're doing with your clients, and the fact that you're walking alongside them saying, hey, this is what we planned for, let's stay the course. How else can we convey that message, Esther, to people that are scared right now and saying, hey, look, I don't know. Just a couple of days ago, if I'm not mistaken, Esther, the market went up 11.5% in one day, which was the biggest gain in history. But we also had the biggest loss in history, 2 or 3 days before
10 minutes
that.
before that. Right.
Yeah. It's that uncertain, that unknown. How do we help them through those urges to panic and just call it a day, pull everything out, and lose opportunity?
One of the things I really like doing, there's several answers to what do we do? What the heck do we do with this? One of the things I really like doing is going through a statement with a client and looking at what they actually hold. Do you think Apple? Do you think Pfizer? Do you think American Electric Power? Do you think Amgen? Do you think JP Morgan? Do you think every single one of these companies is going to go bankrupt now and be done?
Great question.
And they go, oh, yeah, no, I don't. I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, let's look now also at what income your portfolio is generating. Let's look at the dividends that you're receiving. You're getting, X thousands of dollars from dividends. Sometimes, yes, companies curtail or stop their dividends, but they are really loath to do that because they know that will further depress their prices in the market. So in the meantime, you're getting cash in. And one of the things that stock market stories don't say, they don't talk about how much income portfolios are generating. They're just talking about prices.
Yes.
And so we actually get in there and look and say, okay, this is how much income you're receiving. When you receive it, we're right now either planning that gets reinvested. If it's reinvesting, it's automatically buying at the lower prices. That's what you automatically want to do. Or if you're concerned about, many people, we're certainly not immune to it at Gates Pass. Many people are saying, my income in 2020 is likely going to be impacted by this. Great, let's look at that income in your portfolio. Maybe say, let's not reinvest that. Let's hold that as an additional reserve. We also look at the bonds. Do you think, again, your Apple bond, your corporate bonds. I'm not looking at a statement right now and I'm drawing a bit of a blank, but do you think all these corporations are going to default on all their debt? Well, that's, their bonds are higher in the capital structure than stock. So you actually have even more security with the bonds than you do with the equities. And here, these are generating X thousands of dollars a year, even more in a number of cases than your stocks are. So stepping through, and actually I've always called it lifting up the hood and looking at the engine of the portfolio rather than just looking at the car on the outside. Let's really get in there and see what you own. And that is very calming to many clients because they go, oh yes, we're looking at, say, for example, utilities that pay higher dividends. We don't own PG&E here locally. That's our local utility that's very, very, very challenged because of the fires that have occurred in California over the past few years.
Yep.
But for example, here we are. We're all working from home. We're all on the internet. The lights are on. We're doing laundry. All of these things take power. Are all of those utilities going to go out? Is the water going to stop? No. So that's one of the things that we do and that I encourage others to do as well. Really look at what you own. If you own primarily a portfolio of mutual funds, not individual stocks, look at the stocks that the mutual funds own. Mm-hmm. And we also go back to the financial plan that we created. And I like to liken a financial plan to a structure, like a blueprint for a house. When you invest in a home, if you're going to build that home from the ground up, you need a plan for that home. And that plan has to get approved. You need foundation, electrical, structure, the cosmetic portion of it. You need to put all these together. And everyone, they would like to have their own custom home. So like a home, everyone's plan, we create it custom because everyone's situation is different. When they would need their money, how long they can leave it untouched, and what is their confidence and comfort with volatility. And it's really interesting how comfort with volatility can change. In a year like 2019, people were very comfortable with equities because everything came up. In 2020, it can be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be. Or the other thing that we can discuss also and have discussed is, do you want to let's look at, these are lower prices than they were just a short time ago. Maybe we have the opportunity to allocate more because you actually are generating more than you expected to. So can we readjust the allocation? Mm-hmm. Just like with a blueprint, or for those of us who are homeowners, if something happens to our home, like the roof develops a leak, we don't just say, okay, let's knock down the house. This is a dumb house and we've just got to start all over again.
No. Although, no, never.
We say, okay, let's find the problem. Let's take a look. Let's bring in what we need and let's get this solved.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with, it's not perhaps it's the exactly the best, allegory, but with a plan, or when things, the wind is blowing, we come back to the structure. And transition is not the time to rush decisions. It's not the time to make a decision based on fear or emotions. It's really important to make the decision based on facts. So our client today had very valid questions. Well, when will it come back? How will I know? Is this the right allocation? Should not necessarily, they were not motivated to sell or anything like that, but just it causes those questions. So we went through it step by step, how we got to where we are, and where we are at this point is their life, which had certainly been known, has changed and shifted. And so we're going to look at what opportunities this decline in the market might give in terms of a possible reallocation, because their expense situation has changed. It has declined and their income is staying steady. So maybe we can make a shift, but let's do it within the context of not just what's happening in the month of March 2020 or perhaps the year 2020, but continuing to hone back to what it is that they are seeking for this long term. And in this particular client, it's just, I want stability. I want to know, I don't need to shoot out the lights in terms of return. I just need to know that this is moving, chugging steadily forward. And it's, of course, very unsettling to look at a portfolio on the worst day in recent history, which was earlier this week, and go, oh my gosh. But very telling is how much we can't answer when will this come back. We can just look back in history and look at times like the Great Recession or the bursting of the tech bubble, and take a look at how long it did take for the market to come back. And it might have been a few years, but if one missed out on part of those years and then decided to get back, it takes longer.
Absolutely. So
going back and looking at the structure of the portfolio, which came out of the structure of the financial plan, saying it's structured like this so you can weather this time. You're chugging along with all this income coming into the portfolio right now. And we have time to take a look and make any adjustments. And I was making the point that when they had looked earlier this week and it was pretty grim, and then just within literally like 2 days, how much more money had come back. And it's just a perfect answer. They went, "Oh, I was so dumb to look in the worst day." Well, no, there's nothing dumb about that. Who knows if it was the worst day? It actually was perfect because they could see what a difference just a few days in the market can make.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a little bit more on decision making, because one may be experiencing a lot of things right now, given all the upheaval in personal routines and the market. It's very normal to feel fatigued, mentally fatigued, to feel kind of numb to all of this because it's overwhelming at times. Mental energy is finite. One just can't go and go and go and go, either listening to the news or on the computer, just trying to sort all this out. It's a finite energy source. But the good news is it's a renewable energy source. And it gets renewed primarily through sleeping and eating well. So I would encourage anyone, first of all, if they're stressed out from the changes going on right now, let alone if there's a person, like let's say you're listening to this in 2 years and this coronavirus issue has resolved and presumably the markets have returned because the economy's back online, but there's another transition going on. I just really want to encourage that to sleep and rest, but also and eat well, but also exercise, community connection with others, positivity, all is really helpful to refilling that pool of mental energy, because there is such a thing as decision fatigue. And when clients come to us who have big changes that have happened or maybe about to happen, we really help sort through and prioritize what's critical and time sensitive and what can be deferred. And if there's other people, this is another piece, if there's other people around who are trying to influence your decision, we can help sort through how to respond to them so that it creates space. And in that space, one can rest and have some relief.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to add one or two things to the list that you gave the audience, which was sleeping and eating well, exercise, community connection when we can, obviously, when that's available again, and then being positive. A couple things that I think that everybody needs to hear every once in a while is just kind of like a reset button, is turn everything off. Just get everything off. Not right now. Wait till the podcast is over, please. But once the podcast is over, turn everything off, close your eyes, and whether you pray or meditate or just like to sit in silence, or you have a specific, I absolutely love, I'm stuck in the middle of the country, but I love the sound of the ocean. I love the sound of water.
Right.
Whatever that is for you that helps you find that peace, tranquility, and time, carve out time for you every day, because what's coming in from the media, what's coming in from the news channels, who we all know are trying to sell advertising spaces. So they're going to try to hook you in to get you to watch it for longer so they can sell more advertising. It's just shock and awe, and it's a show, and it's not calming whatsoever. So find that time to be quiet and just be yourself and just get your brain under control, because it runs 1,000,000 miles an hour. And that mental energy, like Esther said, is it's finite, and you don't want it to run out, because then that does lead to poor decisions, panic decisions. Take that time and just relax for a bit.
I love that, Eric. Thank you. Because sometimes one can't just say, okay, I'm going to sleep now.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
It just doesn't work that way. And there's so many ways that are very simple about calming the mind. Putting the right hand on one's heart, left hand on one's belly, breathing in to a count of 4, breathing out to a count of 6, and even just doing that for a minute has an incredibly calming influence. So if you're finding yourself challenged in making decisions, but not able to stop thinking about them, I really invite you to reach out to your own financial advisor if you're not working with one and discuss what's happening for you with them. I'm also available at gatespassadvisors.com. Contact me, and I'm happy to talk with you about what your experience is right now. Step by step, good decisions can be made, regardless of what's going on. And we also have a webinar coming up in a couple weeks, April 9th, on current markets and decision making. So I invite everyone to connect with us about that. You can go to the website and hit Contact Us for more info. And there's even another podcast going back. If you go back to episode 3, what is the financial plan process and how do we do it here to really help support a framework, regardless of if your roof is leaking a bit, regardless of if the wind's blowing really strongly. How do we help put together and or create a structure that will help you navigate through in such a way that your life and your finances really support who you are and where you need to go?
Yeah, absolutely. Having that foundation set so that the winds don't blow you around, so that you have stability, is so important. And Esther, thank you so much for bringing some stability today to this podcast. Is there anything else that we need to say today before we log off?
Oh gosh, that makes me feel like I have to think of something incredibly brilliant. And just take care of yourselves, actually. Yeah. Be safe, rest. This will resolve. We will get through this. We are actually weeks closer than we were. And this will not go on forever. And we can still reach out for community, even if we're on our own. There are these things called telephones. I bet if you're listening to this, you may be listening to it on one of these things called a telephone. That is actually really a mini computer. There's all sorts of ways to connect. So please be sure to let somebody know what's happening for you, what your experience is, and we are here as well. So just take care and be safe.
Absolutely. Thank you, Esther. And for each one of you listening, I want to thank you for listening to the Women in Wealth podcast with Esther Szabo. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Esther comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it much easier to share these with your friends and family. Again, thanks for listening today. For everyone at Gates Pass Advisors, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. Be safe, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Women and Wealth podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you receive notifications of new podcasts as they become available. Check out the website at www.gatespassadvisors.com for more information. This content is developed from sources believed to be providing accurate information. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult legal or tax professionals for specific information regarding your individual situation. The opinions expressed and material provided are for general information and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.